Great. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you again for joining. My name is Nicole Weber, and I'm the Senior Specialist for Capacity Strengthening and Learning with ProWash. I'm also online today with my colleague, Rebecca Pinto, who is the Director of ProWash, as well as Julia, who is our Program Manager. And so we're really excited today to be co-hosting this webinar with iDE. In today's agenda, we will first hear from Valerie around an overview of Samma, and then we'll hear about using human-centered design in a sanitation business. We'll practice actually using a tool, who is responsible, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the challenges around human-centered design, some of the challenges we're facing in today's world, and we can think all of us are experiencing challenges likely related to COVID-19 as well, and how it affects our wash work. And then some of the challenges that you've put in the box, we'd like to discuss and think about how we can work together through this small group to think about how we can address some of those challenges. So we encourage you to introduce yourself in the group, let us know what organization you're working with, where you're calling from today, and what's your one of your challenges or questions that you're working on in WASH. So just to share my question, I guess I'm really struggling with how to move all of our really participatory, engaging WASH trainings that we used to do in person. That's no longer possible right now with COVID and with travel restrictions. So how can I move all these trainings to remote options or other modalities to really make sure that we still get across all of the skills training and that it's engaging and helpful for adult learners. And so with that, I'm really excited to turn it over to Abby from iDE, who will introduce the team.
You want to share the rules?
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry about that. Yeah, the webinar will be about an hour. Use the chat box throughout if you have any questions, or you can share your experiences as well, and those questions that you're trying to answer in your WASH programming. We will have an opportunity to unmute mics later in the program and to share your experiences with the tool that we'll be practicing using. But otherwise, please help us out by staying on mute. And then, as always, we'll share the recording, the tool, and the presentations from today's webinar with an email afterwards. All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Rebecca, and all of you for joining us here today on this Thursday. We have an exciting presentation planned for you today. We're actually going to practice using a tool that we've used in the field in our Ghana program and in our Nepal and Bangladesh program, and we'll try it out, and we'll explain a little bit about how you can apply this in your own programming. So who are we today here from iDE? So I'm Abby Neidham. I'm the Global Design Director. We have Valerie Lobby, who is calling in from Accra. She's the founder of Samma, which is our sanitation business in northern Ghana. She's currently the iDE Ghana Country Director. We have Greg Lestico, who's our iDE WASH Global Director. Many of you might know him. And Elise Mann, who runs our Innovation and Performance department within iDE WASH. So let's hear from Val first, a little bit about Samma and the background of our sanitation business in Ghana. Val, please. Val, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Thank you, Abby. Brilliant. So I'm really excited to just have this opportunity to share with you a bit about Samma. We are a social enterprise predominantly based in the northern regions of Ghana, and our focus really was to understand, why the majority of Ghanaians do not have access to a decent toilet at home, and to kind of unpick how we could establish a one-stop shop sanitation kind of business and brand that is synonymous with a quality toilet. So essentially, we are a social business that is looking at kind of the entire value chain from when a customer buys a toilet all the way to disposal. And there's kind of three main areas of our business model. So we look at strengthening market systems. So we actually designed an aspirational toilet, establishing good partnerships and strengthening the supply chain, working with local entrepreneurs. So we have actually aggregated a network of local toilet producers, and then providing meaningful solutions to our customers. And by solutions, we look at offering flexible payment plans, continuing to iterate our toilet designs, and lowering the barriers to entry for actually purchasing a toilet. And it's been a really interesting journey. I guess we started in 2015. And we didn't really know anything about the market. We didn't really know much about consumers in that space. And so we decided to really leverage human-centered design first to really just unpick customer needs. I think it was important for us when you're building any business model or trying to understand any market to know, like, what are customers' aspirations, what are their needs, what are the barriers, kind of challenges and opportunities. And so we utilize HCD to allow us to actually talk to customers and hear what they had to say about their market. And it was a really interesting journey, because even when you spoke to people in northern Ghana, like, would you buy a toilet? The first point was, you know, do you have an understanding of like a decent toilet? Have you seen a decent toilet? And so just our time in the field with HCD, even engaging with customers, asking people about their sanitation behaviors as the starting point, was really enabled us to establish design principles that allowed us to understand the market, understand where people, even if they had money, where would they go to buy a toilet? What kind of toilets would people be prepared to invest in? You know, what is even understanding household dynamics? Who would be the main buyer? And so we spent maybe about 3 months, the first 3 months, speaking to around 1,000 people across the northern regions to really get a true sense of the market. From there, we've continued to use HCD. From the establishing design principles, we went on to kind of product development, rapid prototyping. So we built out our design principles to actually build an aspirational toilet. So understanding what aspirational meant to our customer base, and actually building out a toilet. And we did 3 rounds of rapid prototyping. Well, the first, we drew what the toilet looked like. After that, we went back to the communities and we actually had showed photos and drawings of prototypes. And then after that, we actually built out 6 different designs from the feedback we'd had from customers, and we bussed people in as part of our HCD process to get a true feeling of, you know, what people wanted and what would sell. From there, we kind of continued at every inflection point as we've built out the business to use HCD. We've improved the product, and we had an HCD process for broadening our impact in terms of hand hygiene. We had to establish global partnerships with a manufacturer for a ceramic squat pan, and we used HCD when we actually did a trip to India to engage different manufacturers and evaluate and assess their interest in the market and their capabilities to support us. We used HCD when we were developing our brand. So Samma actually came out of an ideation session that happened with my staff, and it actually is a name that resonates with people in Ghana, as associated with kind of quality sanitation back in the day. And we've also developed our above the line campaigns using a human-centered design process. So it seems quite natural that as we continue to unpick and evolve and try and maximize our impact, that we have continued to use this. And I engaged Abby to look at the kind of gender question. And it's interesting because when I first started Samma, other than myself, it was very difficult to engage women in a toilet market, a toilet business. It wasn't aspirational. And as we've kind of gone through our journey each year, we've started to engage women in different ways. We've had to respond, iterate, and kind of pivot to opportunities in the market. But we've got to a stage where I really wanted to understand, like, are we improving the gender dynamics? Are we empowering women through, you know, quality employment, through as customers, in terms of their understanding of the market, and we had done like lots of different pieces around gender empowerment, but there wasn't really a journey for us to understand. And so I think this is where like Abby came in with her support and her understanding of the process to help us kind of unpick what does gender empowerment mean to us as women in Northern Ghana and us as women in Samma. What are the experiences we've gone through engaging with WASH markets, and where are the opportunities for Samma to improve and enhance opportunities, and where are there also barriers that are probably not seen that we need to address. So I'm going to hand over to Abby from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Val. Thank you for all of that good background and for being here today. So as Val mentioned, we conducted a human-centered design gender assessment to understand how women, how might we include more women in the sanitation value chain. And so typical to the human-centered design process, we don't just use one way of collecting information and data, right? We use tools, we use collaboration, and some of those tools that we used during this particular study we did, and this was back in October of 2018, almost 2 years ago now, hard to believe, right? Within our user interviews, we built in 3 tools, a day in the life, journey mapping, and who's responsible. The tool that we used for co-creation, among others, was the multi-lane highway. So just quickly, I'll run through these tools. We're really going to focus on who's responsible here today, and we're going to walk you through this, and we have some activities planned. What is a day in the life, and how can you use it? Well, this tool helps you to understand what a day in the life of your target user looks like. So by mapping out their activities throughout one day, you can learn about their habits and routines and where your potential solutions might fit into these. So something that we discovered when we use this tool as a complement to our interviews is we found that women in Northern Ghana are out of the home between 9 and 5. They're busy. They're out, they're in the market, they are perhaps in the field, they're farming, they're busy. And so what we learned from that and how we translated that into a solution was, okay, well, if women are out of the house during the day, and we know that women are an important decision maker in the toilet purchase, we should not go to the household to talk to women when they're out of the house, right? So we should try to engage with them in the sales process prior to leaving in the morning or after they return home. Journey mapping. So a user journey map is a visual representation of a customer experience. So, and this is a useful tool for everyone involved in the intervention to look at the product and service from the user's point of view, and can be a key part in the design and optimization. So oftentimes what's associated with a user journey or journey mapping is the pain points and the acceleration points. Okay, so how can we as intervention and implementers, how can we unblock some of those pain points in order to take people further down the journey of sanitation and to sanitation adoption? Who's responsible? I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. And then the multi-lane highway. So this is a basic framework. This comes from the GALS toolkit. And this is a participatory tool with a road as a road journey, right? This starts with a very simple vision circle on the top right of where you want to go, so where you want to be. And then the current situation is at the bottom. And then you have to fill in a participatory way with your respondents, your users, your stakeholders, how you are going to get to your vision. How are you going to get to your final destination? What are some of those opportunities? What are some of those challenges, those roadblocks? And how might we, right, really move towards that vision, that future, that vision of perfect? So who's responsible? Okay, so why this tool? Well, why did we choose this tool for today to talk to you guys about? Well, in market interventions, particularly in sanitation market interventions, it's important to understand users or actors' perceptions of the toilet process, right? The toilet journey, or the journey to toilet, I should say. And this includes all of these different areas or activities. When we think about a value chain, any value chain, it can be an agricultural value chain, it can be a sanitation value chain. There are actors and there are activities, right? And we have to understand what user perceptions of each activity are in order to understand if we are targeting people and providing opportunities for them at the right time of the process, along this journey, along this value chain. This is a very simple tool, and we're going to walk you through this in a few minutes. But we can understand when we use this tool from a user's perspective, what is culturally appropriate and at what stage, and most importantly, why. So there are a few sections. There is deciding to purchase a toilet. So who decides in the household? Who pays for the toilet? So paying for the toilet. Collecting water. Who is responsible for collecting water for the toilet? Who is responsible for collecting supplies? Then we have the other category of manufacturing and installation. So in certain contexts, a pit has to be dug in many of the contexts we work, right? So who is responsible for that digging? Who is responsible for the painting, the transporting, and the building? And then moving on to cleaning the floor, cleaning the pan. And then repair and upkeep, right? Repairing the floor, repairing the door, repairing the pan, repairing the structure. And if it's a sit toilet, repairing the pan could be, repairing the component. So you can lead all respondents, all value chain actors through this activity to see if there is variance in opinion and where common beliefs lie. Okay, this can be used as a powerful assumption buster, which we found busted many of our assumptions when we did this in Ghana, which we'll share in a moment. But first, let's go ahead and try this now together. So our activity for today is, I'm going to ask you all, think about your own home, where you are right now or where you live, right? So perhaps that's a bathroom in an apartment, perhaps it's a home, perhaps it's shared, whatever. Think of your bathroom at home and think about your dynamics within your home. Now, I'm going to ask you the following questions, and I'd like you to think, and I'd like you to type into the chat window after each question, male, female, or both, right? Because some of these activities might be split, right? Some people, some men might do it, some women might do it. There might be a shared responsibility in some of these activities. So both is a very acceptable answer as well. So in your home, who is responsible for deciding if you need upgrades to your washroom or bathroom or toilet, right? So this can be upgrades to your toilet, your sink, your linens, anything that is included in that washroom bathroom experience. You see some both. I see a female, both. Male, okay. Okay. I see some males, some females, some both. Sydney, would you like to share why you responded with both? Sydney, are you there? Okay.
Sorry,
oh, no problem.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. My button didn't even work. Sure, happy to. Hi, Abby. Hi, everyone. Thanks for a great presentation so far. So my partner is male, and we share a bathroom, and we both have inputs into whether or not we need upgrades, and we would both make decisions about what was needed. Although I will note that as I'm talking, I realize I live in an apartment building, so it's actually not up to either of us. It's up to our landlord.
Who is a?
Who is male.
Thank you, Sydney. For those of you who wrote male, who would like to share why? You could just unmute yourself and share with the group. Okay.
Well,
go
mine,
ahead, Tyler,
I
please.
can go for it, sure, yeah. Mine's pretty easy. I live alone, so I'm a male.
There you go.
There's that.
Simple enough, right? For those of you who selected female, who would like to share why?
Me, for the same reason. I live on my own and I'm female.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, next question. In your home, in your place of residence, and if it is decided that upgrades are to be made to the facility, the washroom facility, the bathroom facility, who is responsible for paying for those upgrades? Is it male? Is it the female? Or is it both? I see a lot of boths in here. I see the male, I see a male, a few males. For those who respond with the male, who would like to unmute and explain why?
Because male is the breadwinner, in fact, mainly.
Male is the breadwinner, in fact. Yusuf, where are you calling from?
I am Syrian, based in Turkey.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
For those of you who responded with both, Hilda, actually Hilda from Ghana wrote male. Hilda, would you like to explain why?
So I also chose male because in Ghana, mostly the men do the payments, even if the woman is the one with the money, but you definitely will give it to your husband to pay as the head of the family.
Thank you, Hilda. Thank you for joining us. Nice to hear you. Okay, in your home, if you have decided that you need upgrades to your washroom or bathroom, and you have paid for it, who is in charge of collecting and purchasing the supplies for the washroom or bathroom? Who is in charge? Who is responsible for collecting the things that go in it? So the tissue, the towels, so on and so forth. Soap, cleaning supplies. I see a lot of females in here. Okay. Can someone unmute and explain why they have selected the female is responsible for this task?
This is Catherine from the U.S. I, as a female, am responsible because I care more. I'm more particular about what I want in the bathroom, and also I do most of the shopping for the home as well.
Very good. Thank you so much. Anyone? Okay, Precious. Precious, I'd like to call on you. You said it depends. On the hardware, it's male, and on the cleaning supplies, it's female. Would you like to share why?
Yeah, I think just as what the person that just spoke earlier was mentioning, like the female has a tendency of a caring, social personality. So when it comes to cleaning supplies, she's caring about her family, and that's the first thing that's on her mind. But a lot of times, speaking in the U.S. context, a lot of times when it comes to supplies, as far as like fixing something, to repairing a toilet or repairing any type of a faucet or something, a lot of times women are like, that's your job. You go and fix it. So the men tend to go and get the supplies to do all the maintenance and repairs, which require supplies.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Precious, for that explanation. Now let's move on to installation. So once we've decided we need an upgrade in our toilet or washroom, we've purchased the upgrade. We have purchased and collected the supplies for this place. Think about installation. Who comes? So if you hire someone, who is coming to do the installation? Perhaps it's painting. Who's bringing the materials for the upgrade to your home? And who is in that washroom or bathroom doing this installation and building out whatever these upgrades might be? The male? Is it a female, or is it both? I see a lot of males here. Can someone please unmute and explain why?
This is Linda here from Switzerland. So I just realized I don't think I've ever seen a female plumber here anywhere.
That's a very good point. And why do you think that there are no female plumbers, Linda?
I don't know, but I guess it might be one of those professions that have traditionally been taken by male people and that have just not opened up to, or that don't seem aspirational to females. I have to be honest, I haven't thought about it before for the plumbers specifically. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Linda. Okay, now here's a fun section. Can't wait to see your responses here. Cleaning. So you have this new upgrade, you've decided, you've purchased, you have all of your new accoutrements to go inside your bathroom or toilet, your washroom. It has been installed and you've been using it now, and it's time to clean it. Who is responsible for cleaning your bathroom, your washroom in your household? Both, but the female has to make the male do it. Yep. Who would like to unmute and explain why they have written female?
I think I would say something. My name is Ivan and I'm calling in from Salt Lake City. I have written down women, the reason being that in most cases or in some scenarios, you'll find that women are home most of the time as compared to the men, and they might have more interest of keeping these areas clean more than us the men. But at times, we also find that men are motivated according to what they see, and they want to support their spouses in making the home clean. So that's how they can all come together to a conclusion that we can do this together as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's move over to repairs. So we've been using our upgrades in our bathroom and our washroom for some time. Something breaks. we have to fix the toilet, or we have to, you know, maybe fix the sink. Who comes to do that? Is it a male? Is it a female? Is it both? And who is responsible for making the decision that those repairs need to be made? So let's start with the first one. Who is responsible for making the decision that the repairs need to be made? I see both males. Okay, I see some males, both. In my household, it's the woman who makes the decision. My husband, he knows what he's doing. Okay, very good. Now, here's a little added nuance. Once it's decided, who is the one to make that phone call? Who is the one to make that appointment with whoever might come to repair if it's not being done personally? Both women. I see Yvonne. Ivan says women again. Here, Ivan, would you like to share about this one?
Yes, I'm saying that it's women because they might be the ones to see if there is a problem faster than the men. And because women are known for taking care of things properly, they might be more interested and they might find the best person that they have worked with previously to come and work with them. But also the men, again, they have to be there to support them. You'll find that men sometimes they might make the assignment to the women that, oh, do you mind calling this person? But usually it might be starting with the female.
Thank you. Okay, let us move on to, I hope you all enjoyed that. You see the differences in response based on where people are calling from, where they live, their cultures, and their realities, right? So that is why we do this activity, because everyone has a little bit different of a reality. And when we're in a context and we're working with users to design solutions with them and for them, it's really important to understand what some of these activities look like, who is doing these, right? And also what people desire to do. How might we involve more women in the sanitation value chain was our challenge question when we approached this work. And so running through who's responsible with our female value chain actors really enabled us to see where we could intervene, where we could provide opportunity in the business of toilets, right? So you can do this. You can do this very easily in your context where you work, in your programming. Anyone can run through this exercise, okay? Here's what you need. And we're gonna send this presentation, and I believe we've sent the tool over on the chat, but we'll follow up with that as well. Nicole and Rebecca will send that over after. Flashcards with printed photos of the activity, okay? So paying, right? Installing, right? So on the internet or within your photo collection, find photos that represent each of these activities. Print them out in color. Color printing helps. We learned this because we did this in black and white. These are visual cues that can be used as you run through this tool with a respondent and a user. So you have your flashcards, you have a space to sit, so chairs or a bench or, you know, inside the home, outside the home, where people are comfortable. That's the most important thing. Have some markers on hand, a clipboard, right? If you're not at a table, you need a flat surface so the user can circle who they believe is responsible on the canvas. And then you need to print out enough of these canvases and enough of these tools for one per user, okay? So how do you do this? How do you apply? Well, you set up the activity with your respondent. So do you have a place where we can sit? If you're not already talking to them, maybe this is done before an interview. Maybe this is done after an interview or in the middle of an interview. This can also be done independently, right, without interview, right? So if you are if you're doing this during an interview, you can explain the activity and what you'll be doing, and it goes something like this. So now I would like your help and opinion on a few different activities, and you tell me whose job it is, right? A man, a woman, or both. Always assure the respondent that there are no right or wrong answers. This is very important. And that the activity will only take about 20 to 30 minutes. So as I mentioned before, this can be done during an interview. This can be done prior, after. It's really up to you. So once you're sitting down and you have the canvas in front of you and your clipboard and you're in a comfortable place, ask the respondent to choose a marker of their choice. So, here are the markers, pick your color, make this engaging, make this about the user and their opinion and their experience. And when they're ready, slowly walk them through each of the activities, as I just have done for you and a few moments ago. And then as you're walking them through the activity, show them the corresponding flashcard or photograph of that activity. And have the respondent circle the choice on the canvas. So circle male, circle female, or circle both, right? But the most important thing is after each activity and after each chosen circle, ask why. Well, why is it a man who does this? Well, why is it a woman's responsibility to do this, right? Write down those answers. Ask why, even if you think you know why. Remember, it's not about you. It's about the user. It's about the respondent. So write down the responses, and as they are explaining the why, and if something pops up that might surprise you or surprises you in what they say, probe deeper to capture the information. So here's an example. If a respondent selected, right, that a woman is responsible for painting, and then asked why, the respondent might say, because women like to paint. And then you might say, oh, really? Why do women like to paint? Right? So probing and going deeper so you can capture more data, so you can understand a fuller picture, or gain or paint or create a fuller picture of these activities and the perceptions behind them. You might be surprised at what you hear. I know we definitely were. So once you are done with all of your interviews or all of your who's responsible canvases, you can take them back to your workspace, your office, and paste them up all on a wall, on a blank wall. And then with a colleague or a few different colleagues, analyze why things are different or things are similar. Where do we see similarities in the activities and the responses? Where do we see differences and why? So taking the Canvas data, the completed Canvas data, and also the data from your interviews, synthesize that together and create one map or create one canvas, right? And this can be used as your who's responsible roadmap that you can weave into your programming and activity intervention, okay? So what did we find in Ghana? Well, in Ghana, we found that is the user or actor perception of convincing is a woman. The woman of the household decides that a toilet is needed, and then actively starts engaging in a convincing journey to convince her husband or the head of the household to purchase the toilet. It is the male who makes the final decision, but only after he has been convinced by his wife. Paying. Who pays? Who buys? Right? So as Hilda had mentioned, and she gave a little teaser here, whoever has the money, whoever can afford the toilet, purchases the toilet. It's the woman most often. Now, when we talk about paying and purchasing, those are two very different activities, right? The woman has the money, but she gives it to the man, and the man will physically take it to purchase the toilet. So there's nuance there. And that was surprising, and that had to be understood, right? For cleaning, who's responsible? We had the woman, but the adult female only is for cleaning. It is not a job for children or for younger females. Cleaning the pan, it's only a job for an adult female as well. No, not children. Repairing. So the woman in northern Ghana sources all of the work and the labor. So it is the woman who is calling to get the repair man over, to the mason over to repair the door. It is the woman who's calling the mason to get the tiles replaced. It's the woman who's calling the pit emptying service. But it is a male who comes to do the work. And it's also the male of the household, the head of the household, who oversees that work, right? Who manages the work, but it's the woman who is making that happen, facilitating that work. Installing, we talked about digging, we talked about building, we talked about painting. All of those things are a man's job, according to our respondents in Ghana, with the exception of painting. Painting was considered to be a job done by both, right? And women were actually the response was more directed towards women, actually, because the why there is that women have a better attention to detail. And so, according to users, right? And so when asked, okay, well, who can paint or who does paint? A lot of respondents responded with women. And so how we took these responses, how we took this data and translated them into intervention. Well, we know that women are painting or would like to paint. So that's an opportunity now within our Samma program as an income generation activity for women, right? The men are the ones who are building the toilet, using the concrete. It's heavy, right? So women are not always able to do that type of work, but involving them in the process of manufacturing at the painting stage is something that we are doing now based on our data from who's responsible. And so with that, with 10 minutes remaining, let's have a little Q&A and also a little discussion about the challenge that we're having. The next steps, or a few challenges that we're having, which you put in the chat box at the beginning. The next session will be taking some of those challenges and then using a tool that we're going to design specifically to help you with that challenge. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for your questions. I've pulled them together so we can go through them in the time remaining. So I just wanted to start, there were 2 questions for Samma early on. It sounds like your initial discussions showed that women were away from their homes between 9 to 5 p.m. Did you also consider availability of latrines away from home? And so someone else also asked, did you see it as a greater priority to try to meet those needs of women when they're outside the home? So I thought maybe Valerie could answer that question.
Yeah, I think for us it actually changed how we spoke to women and the times we engaged them. So we actually also included, when we realised that most women are outside of the home, we actually realised that the natural places for women in northern Ghana to congregate was around the markets. So we actually also have included sales agents who are based in the markets so that they could also provide the information to women about our product and service. And like Abby said, that in our markets, women are the influencers of a decision, but they aren't necessarily the ones taking the decision. So what we found was just having those agents sharing the information and the awareness and talking to women about the product in an area where they naturally congregate and can discuss amongst themselves did help in terms of access to the toilet. And what we've also found was for a number of women who actually have purchased our toilet, they prefer to go home, even if it's during the day, to use their toilet facility, just because a shared public toilet is just not desirable. So I think there are opportunities, obviously, for improved toilets in a public or more open setting. But I think what we found was that the women who had invested in their households and invested in a Samma toilet take pride in that, and actually, as much as possible, if they need to in the day, still would visit the household. So,
Okay. Great, thank you. And then we have a couple questions that came in on the tool. So when conducting this exercise in a cultural context where households are multi-generational, do you add more profiles to your who?
That's a great question. And the answer is no, but we could.
Mm-hmm.
That can absolutely be done. And really, when we're talking about multi-generational households and respondents who are living within multi-generational households, we capture that data by speaking to multiple people within that household. So for example, we would speak with the daughter, and then we would also speak with the mother, using the same tool to see where the variance or if differences appeared.
Great, thank you. Another question was, do the trends ever change? How frequently should we resurvey? My answers in our activity may have been different pre-pandemic, when I spent less time at home and in my home bathroom. So maybe, do you use the tool more than once? And then I guess also it'd be interesting, I think, for a lot of us to hear how sanitation marketing activities have maybe shifted or adapted because of COVID-19 as well, in your experience.
That is a really great question. And it would be very interesting to go back and reapply this tool in the field today and see how and if this has changed. And so I see Val over there taking a note. Maybe that is something that the team could do and see how things have changed. But we only ran this tool once. Yeah.
Great. I think another question is, how do you select the households to use the tool with?
So we selected households with toilets and without toilets. We selected, it was just a mixed sample, right? We selected poorer customers, we selected some middle-class customers, some people a little bit above that. We've also done this with actors, not households, right? So latrine business owners, government, people within our Samma business, right? So we conducted this tool across the entire sanitation value chain of Samma to see exactly where and if some of the perceptions were different.
Thank you. Let's see. How does this exercise look like for communal facilities such as shared latrines and hand washing stations?
That's a good question. We did not dig into the shared latrine experience, but it can be applied to a shared latrine experience. It just depends on who you speak to. So are your users using a shared latrine, or are your users, is that their option for sanitation service? So it really can be applied to those circumstances as well.
Okay, great. And then we had a question around how have you used digital technology, or is it typically paper and pencil? I noticed you had you shared some of those images of things that were printed off in color, but have you tried digital technology at all? And is there other demographic data that you also capture?
Great question on the digital technology. For this exercise that we for this assessment that we did, we used analog methods, so paper and pen. Some digital technology is being tested and piloted. The Samma program has another application that brings technology specifically to users in terms of answering questions. But for our purposes, doing these type of assessments, we've only used pen and paper, but other digital methods have been tried and are being tested.
Okay, great, thank you. And I'm sure we'll be curious to hear as you learn more from those new technologies, some of the lessons learned.
So one thing just on the technology, and this is a point of debate among many, I know, and it's an ongoing one. We've sometimes found that technology creates a barrier. That when, and depending on the user, depending on who you're talking to, it might intimidate people. Because technology, the iPad, the application, people looking at screens, in certain contexts is associated with government or banks or loans. It's more formal. And so we try to keep it very friendly and informal when we're conducting this work, because we want people to feel comfortable enough to be honest, comfortable enough to be upfront about the questions we're asking them.
Sorry, Nicole, I think there was a question on, has anyone tried HCD to link CLTS ODF communities? And actually Samma is operating in rural settings. So when we first started, we had hoped that there would have been kind of a stronger link, transitioning people further up the sanitation ladder, from CLTS. And what we actually found were kind of two interesting things. Was that the purchasing journey, it starts with having like an awareness, intention, and making a choice. And CLTS has been doing really well in kind of raising the awareness and supporting households to kind of maybe have the intention to change from their current behaviors or invest in a better toilet, but it wasn't supporting households to actually make the choice, which is really what Samma was about. Even if where do I even go if I had money to buy a toilet and I'm ready to make that choice? I think that's what the gap was that we saw in the market that CLTS hadn't really filled. And then the second thing was actually a pain point that had been created by CLTS that as a result was pushing some people to actually want to just not build their own toilet, but just to purchase a toilet. And so we identified something we call a pit abandonment cycle, where people who had been triggered by CLTS had built their own toilet. During the rainy season, that toilet had kind of fallen down, and as a result it deterred their neighbors from following that same process, and those people rather preferred to just buy a toilet technology that was tried and tested and an easy purchasing process from Samma. So we did have quite a lot of insights about the connections and the opportunities from working in CLTS and ODF communities.
Great, thank you. We have two more questions and then we'll move on to the challenges. So quickly, were men and women present together when completing the activity? If so, might there have been an effect? And also, is there a group think effect if people are doing it together? And then the other question was, who was interviewed, men only, women only, or both? If both, what percentage? And do you think if the same exercise was done by both men and female in the same household, do you think we would get the same answers?
Great questions. These were done on a one-on-one basis. So no one was present aside from the administrator of the tool and the respondent and the translator, right, in some cases. We did this activity with 50% men and 50% women, and the responses were consistent across the two gender groups. And we did try this in a household, and we asked the male to complete it, and then we asked the female to complete it a few days later, and the responses were the same.
Great, thank you. And so now I just want to loop back quickly to the challenges that were brought up at the beginning that different people mentioned. We heard several around how do we engage as NGOs with the private sector? What are the most effective ways to engage the private sector, from manufacturing to financing, and some of those questions too, especially in rural environments. And then we also heard challenges around how do we integrate our WASH activities and COVID activities, and how do we adapt to these new challenges. And then I think another key challenge that we heard from several people were how can you use HCD when doing monitoring and evaluation for WASH?
Okay, great. So there's a few there. Very good. So I think for the next step, I think, Nicole, do you want to talk through how we're going to think about some of those challenges, and then what the next steps might be for those?
Sure. So we'd love to compile these different challenges we heard from you. We'll send them out with the email, with the follow-up with the presentation, the recording, the link to the tool as well. And then we'd like to hear from you of which of these challenges would you like to see prioritized as a next step. And then we can meet back again in the fall and together develop or adapt a tool that could help you in your work to address one of these challenges. Great. So we're at time now, and I want to thank everyone. I really want to thank iDE for this fantastic presentation, to Valerie for sharing around Samma and sharing this tool with us. And so please feel free to share any other questions. You can reach out to ProWash as well if you have questions or follow-up support that you'd like from us. And we look forward to staying in touch and wish you a wonderful rest of your day.